Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia Alvarez. Welcome to our show this evening. I am here today. It's been a little bit since we've had a show, but we're back and running again. So I am going to be the main host. I believe I mentioned before that it was between me and William, but for the next few shows, it will be me. And I just want to tell you guys a little bit about what my show will be focusing on for the next few coming weeks. Today is mainly going to be a focus on Overdose Awareness Day, International Overdose Awareness Day, which is going to be next Thursday. But I thought I would bring it up today since I won't be on air next Thursday. But for the focus of these shows in the future, kinds of topics that I'll be focusing on will be on substance misuse and HIV prevention topics, also mental health and a variety of social issues. So if there's anything happening in that week that is impactful to our communities, that will be something that I will be focusing on for that particular week. Also, we will occasionally interview people from Chicago Area Project, which is the program that I am a part of. And that will include maybe some people from that work there, staff. Also, we have interviewed some interns in the past, and we have some new ones that have just joined us recently in the start of their school year. We have one from Chicago State, and we will have another intern join us as well from Northeastern Illinois University, as well as University of Illinois at Chicago. So be on the lookout for those kinds of shows that we have coming up for you guys in the future. And something else that I wanted to touch on, brief little, just promoting a youth talk that I am going to be hosting as well this coming Saturday, August 26th. If we could put that flyer up, it's going to show all the information. So as you can see here, this is a flyer that's hosted by Grand Boulevard Coalition, and the focus of this is going to be youth and trauma. So this week it's going to be August 26th at 1 p.m., 1 to 2 over Zoom, so that way you guys can join from the safety of your home and the coolness of your home, because it is pretty hot this week. That's just going to be coming up. So if you are interested in attending, you can scan the QR code with your phone, and it'll link you to a Google form where you can put your information and your email, and we will email a Zoom link out to you. So our youth talks that they provide educated, helpful, and pro-social information through safe and peaceful venues for youth ages 13 to 20. Youth will be able to have a safe space where they can have conversations with others regarding topics such as substance misuse, mental health, youth relationships, and more. And also for this specific Saturday session that we have coming up, participants will be able to receive a certificate of attendance, which that's for every Saturday session that you join. But only for this Saturday, we will have a raffle. So we will be giving out a gift card for the youth that attend. We will be giving out one gift card. So if you stay for the duration of the youth talk, your name will be included in the raffle, and we will be handing that out to you all. We're looking forward to doing that. I'm also hosting that, and we're also just starting that up this Saturday too. So we haven't had a youth talk in a little bit. Hopefully in the next session when you join us, we'll announce that we're having a speaker. So that'll be 2 weeks from this coming Saturday. So be on the lookout for that, and any emails if you do join and have scanned that QR code. And we'll get into the topic for today. So as I mentioned, our topic for today is on International Overdose Awareness Day, which takes place next Thursday, August 31st. And just kind of going in a little bit into that holiday and what it means. It's a day to remember those that we've lost to overdose, acknowledge the grief of the family and friends left behind, and to renew our commitment to end overdose and any related harms. So it's a day just to kind of talk about awareness, people that have been affected by it, and just to get people educated on what that is, how to prevent one, how to reverse one too, and other things like that that we'll discuss today. So getting into it, what is an overdose? Basically, for those who may not know, an overdose is when you take more than the recommended amount of a substance. And so that can often mean a medicine or a drug. An overdose may result in serious harmful symptoms or even death. So just to kind of clarify, an overdose, I know that word kind of sounds like, at least for me, when I had first heard about that word a while ago, I thought that that meant overdose means that you have died from overdose of whatever substance someone has taken too much of. But an overdose doesn't necessarily lead to death. People can have overdoses and survive them, but there will be some kind of bodily harm that will happen and have some consequences to the mind and body once you have experienced an overdose. So people can overdose from prescription opioids such as oxytocin, fentanyl, morphine, Vicodin, Percocet, etc., and downers such as alcohol and benzodiazepines like Xanax, Klonopin, Valium, Ativan, etc. So I know some of those may not sound too familiar, but Xanax is a medicine that helps with people who have anxiety. That is a common one of the common medications that people take for anxiety. And one drug that I had mentioned a little earlier, a prescription opioid known as fentanyl, has been on the rise recently with youth using and not being aware that they're using it, because there can be traces found in their pills that people have been kind of making on the street or from wherever people have bought some from, a friend or whoever. Some have been laced with fentanyl, which can be deadly. So going a little bit more into fentanyl, I want to show that a video and briefly say that this is a video that talks about how you can test your drugs for fentanyl. It's about 3 minutes long, so we'll be playing that right now. Yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed that video. That video, as I mentioned, is showing a fentanyl test strip, and that is basically a prevention tool that can determine if fentanyl is present in the substance you are using. So as I mentioned, my organization and the specific program that I work in is Chicago Area Project, and what we focus on is substance use prevention and education. We, in our program, whenever we have events or things like that, we will pass out fentanyl test strips to anyone who asks for them. Specifically, if they request any, we give them out for free, and so do other substance use prevention programs and organizations. They are a free resource to people who use substances that may contain fentanyl if they're not getting their pills or whatever substance it is from a safe source, or a well-trusted source. And yeah, so in the video it did say that they need to get their own water and like a little cup to mix these substances, but with our test kits, and next time maybe I'll bring one if I remember, but our test kits include distilled water, and they come in little safely enclosed packets, as well as some cups. So they're little reusable, like not reusable, but they're little paper cups, and we give about like 3 of those in a kit. So you're able to use, if you don't have any water on you or any cups, don't even worry about that because the kits will provide those. And like it mentioned at the end of the video, it did mention some limitations to the test kits. So one of the things it said is that the kits are not 100% accurate because sometimes your drugs may contain underneath the detectable amount of fentanyl in your pills. So just be aware of that. And also there can be false negatives. So sometimes they'll say to test your drug, if the answer or the first test strip shows up a little unclear, try testing it again, just so you can get a more accurate answer, just to make sure that your substances are safe and not laced with fentanyl. But yeah, that is one prevention method that can help prevent an overdose. So that is something, as I mentioned before, fentanyl has been on the rise, especially with youth and younger people, because many teens do not know about their drugs may be laced with things like fentanyl. There was, I might have mentioned this in a previous show, but I just want to mention it again, that I had learned about a mom who had a son who was about 16 years old who had overdosed and passed away from a fentanyl overdose because he was taking what he thought was a Percocet pill that he had gotten from a friend, and he was experimenting with drugs. It was his, I believe the mom said, his second or third time ever using like a pill or taking a pill, and that's an unfortunate reality for her family and for a lot of other families too. Not even people who are trying to use drugs just to experiment, but even another story about a young girl who went to the dentist and was experiencing pain after her appointment, and her mom couldn't afford her pain medication for her. So she went on Snapchat and asked anyone if they had any strong painkillers. And a friend or someone from Snapchat had given it to her, not knowing that it was laced with fentanyl, and she had also overdosed from that pill that had fentanyl in it too. So that is a real, danger that's been kind of on the rise recently, and for maybe about a year or so, we've been hearing more about fentanyl on the street, and just as a thing that's been impacting youth. So that is something to definitely be aware of and be careful of. We definitely, ideally for us, we want kids to stop using, but we know that we cannot control them and we can't really take their drugs away or do anything about that. But what we will say is, if you have the resources available to you, find an organization that has fentanyl test kits, just so that you are able to be sure, have some more clarity on making sure that you're being safe. And yeah, so one of the other substances that I didn't mention in the earlier list was marijuana. And maybe people, I don't know if people have wondered about marijuana and if it's possible to overdose on marijuana, but it is not possible to overdose on marijuana. Although consuming in large amounts can lead to many side effects, which can alter your mental state. And so some reactions and examples of that include anxiety. It can cause coordination issues, psychotic thoughts, high blood pressure, hallucinations, rapid heart rate, and breathing. So those are some of the side effects that can happen if you do consume marijuana in large amounts. So also just being careful of that. Even though you can overdose, there's still some serious harm that can happen from taking too much. So now kind of going a little bit into how you can recognize if someone is experiencing an overdose. So if you observe someone having small or constricted pinpoint pupils, they're falling asleep or having loss of consciousness, slow, weak, or no breathing, choking or gurgling sounds, cold and or clammy skin, and discolored skin. So especially looking at someone's lips and seeing if the lips are discolored, starting to turn blue. And also looking at the nails is another thing that I had learned too recently. Checking someone's nails and seeing the discoloration on them too can show if someone's having an overdose. But kind of looking at all of those factors, you can determine if someone is having an overdose. And if you have determined that there is someone in front of you experiencing an overdose, call 911 and administer naloxone, which is a nasal spray. And if necessary, start compressions. So naloxone is another prevention tool that we recommend to people who are using substances, to have that on hand with them, around them in their house. Also, a family member, if you have a family member that knows somebody that is using in their household, to just have those on hand with them at all times if you are someone that is using or know someone that is using. And basically what naloxone is, the other word for it is called Narcan. So basically what naloxone is a nasal spray. So you'll spray that in the nostril, and that will reverse an overdose that is currently happening. And the thing about that is going to be used by the person observing the overdose happening to someone else. If you are experiencing an overdose, you unfortunately will not be able to administer naloxone on yourself because you are experiencing the effects of an overdose. You will be too out of it to even comprehend or think clearly. So that's going to be really hard for someone experiencing an overdose to administer the naloxone on themselves. The spray comes with about 3 sprays, I believe, in that little Narcan spray. It's very small because it's supposed to be able to go up the nostril, and that will help reverse the effects of an opioid overdose. So it's very specific to opioid overdoses. With other overdoses, other types of substances, that's where it'll get a little tricky because Narcan only works with things like fentanyl. Fentanyl overdoses can be reversed with the spray from naloxone. And so, yeah, that's basically one of the things that we'll say to people to have on hand. And those you can buy at a drugstore. They are pretty expensive, but you can also find them. If you live in Chicago, you will be able to go to any Chicago public library for free and get access to Narcan there. I'm unsure of how many they will give you, but you can go and ask for them and you will get one for free at your local Chicago public library, which I think is a really great resource for those who live in this community in Chicago. And we'll briefly go over a little bit of statistics about overdoses. So according to the Chicago Department of Public Health, there were 13,794 opioid-related EMS responses and at least 1,303 opioid-related deaths in Chicago between January 2020 and December of 2020. So this is a 32% increase in opioid-related EMS responses and a 52% increase in deaths compared to 2019. So that should kind of show you how serious this kind of epidemic is, and how serious people in the community should be taking it, because it has increased drastically since 2019. And another statistic is that for the total number of opioid-related deaths from January to December of 2020, 86% of those opioid-related deaths, 86% of those involved fentanyl. So that's basically most of the deaths from these opioid-related overdoses have been caused by fentanyl, which is why I mentioned fentanyl has been something that has come up on the rise, and is also another scary thing that needs to be taken seriously, and just kind of spread this information around, right, and talk about it more with people who may be using. Another is in 2020 in Chicago, 51% of opioid-related overdose deaths also involved another substance. So cocaine, methamphetamine, and or benzodiazepine, suggesting that polysubstance use is common. So polysubstance use means using two substances at the same time. So it could be alcohol and so cocaine. So mixing two substances, taking them at the same time, can increase your chances of experiencing an overdose or other harmful effects. So that is something that they have found is a common use in Chicago statistics. Similar to 2019, among Chicago residents, the community areas with the most opioid-related overdose deaths in 2020 were the Austin community, Humboldt Park community, and North Lawndale community. So these are the ones that kind of had the most overdose deaths in 2020. So those are particular areas that, you know, we as a community and organizations should be focusing on, just because this is something that either people need, there's a lack of resources in those areas, or just a lack of knowledge in those areas that there are resources available on these kinds of things. So definitely promoting the information is very important in our communities. And to close, as I mentioned, it is important to be aware of how people, of what an overdose is, how to identify an overdose, to be able to help reverse an overdose, and just kind of the dangers of fentanyl and the prevention resources that there are available. So if you need these resources, like I said, feel free to reach out to our program, which is Healthy Living, our #1 goal. We offer fentanyl test kits and connections to mental health and substance abuse treatment centers, or we are available to help you find free Narcan in your area. In the next show, I'll probably share a flyer that gives off all of our information for Healthy Living so that you'll be able to reach out to us, because I didn't bring that with me today. So just be on the lookout for that next time. And we hope that you all have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and stay inside, stay cool, because it is really hot out there. And yeah, spread the knowledge with whoever you can. And thank you very much. Have a great night.